Hola mis queridos espectadores, solo diré que hoy no habrá rap sino una death battle entre Shigaraki y Mahito. Bueno, sin más relleno, que comience este desmadre. Vemos a Dark despertado de su sueño hasta que el timbre de su teléfono sonó. Dark: no mamá, no quiero ir para el médico, no quiero otra operación, pero veo que la sala está vacía. Eso solo hizo que me diera un facepalm, pero vi que el teléfono infinito sonó y vi ahora que era otro universo. Dark: oh, así que será una batalla entre esos dos. Jeje, esto será muy divertido. Aplaude y todos los personajes de diferentes franquicias está en sus asientos con palomitas, y algunos como los villanos, bueno, algunos está dormido, otro planeando planes para ver cómo derrotar Mekov pendejo, y los héroes, bueno, ellos aún estaban sorprendidos que existieran seres capaz de destruir universo y planetas como si nada, pero vieron a Vigilante con su cuerpo de niebla y sus ojos rojos como la sangre, pero a punto de que alguien diga o insulte algo, ver que la pantalla reproduce esto adentro de la pantalla.
Shigaraki versus Mahito.
The symbol of fear versus the human disaster curse.
He's Wiz and I'm Boomstick.
And it's our job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to find out who would win a death battle. Tenko Shimura was just a sweet, shy boy who loved superheroes.
But sometimes the hand of fate can't abide sweet shy boys.
Ruthlessly beaten and abused by his hero-hating father, Tenko pushed beyond his emotional limits until he activated his inherent superpower, or quirk.
It wasn't something cool like flight or super strength. In his terror, he accidentally killed his whole family. Well, except for dear old dad. That one was intentional.
Tenko wandered the streets alone, silently begging for someone, anyone, to help him. If only a hero was there to save him. But instead, the only open hand he found belonged to the devil.
All for One, the greatest supervillain in history.
He took Tenko under his wing, feeding a hatred of everyone and everything, and grooming him to one day lead his League of Villains in destroying hero society.
With that came a new name, Tomura Shigaraki, and an absolutely nightmarish quirk, Decay. It does what it says on the tin. Anything Shiggy touches with all 5 fingers turns to dust. The perfect power for someone who just wants to destroy. Pretty menacing, if not for that dorky-ass costume. I get it, hands are his thing, but come on, they just look so dumb and fake.
Oh, those aren't prosthetics. Those are real hands. From his family that he killed, attached to his face, and explicitly commanded to be left there by his mentor so that he would never forget his rage.
Okay.
While his use of Decay started off relatively weak, it rapidly increased in power and range as Shigaraki came into his own.
Decay isn't even limited to whatever he's touching. Anything that touches something he's decaying also decays.
Spreading like an all-consuming miasma that can wipe out anything from an enormous tower to an entire city.
If Decay reaches you, your only hope is to isolate the body part that is disintegrating before it gets to something vital.
After years of training with the greatest supervillain of all time, Shigaraki was finally put in charge of his own team with one mission. He must kill his master's rival, the #1 hero, All Might.
Only to fall flat on his face.
Shigaraki was a terrible leader, quick-tempered, short-sighted, and, well...
Cringe! Oh, he's just so cringe. He uses gamer lingo unironically. He whines like a baby when things don't go his way. He's the kind of guy who would say normie in real life, in front of normies.
But they say defeat is the greatest teacher of all. Only through struggle could Shigaraki manifest his dark conviction.
Right as All Might's new protege, Izuku Midoriya, was coming into his own as well.
These two rivals, the inheritors of their master's blood feud, would push themselves past their own limitations.
Especially when All Might and All for One double KO'd each other, leaving Shigaraki to lead the League of Villains all by himself.
And with the stakes higher than ever before, Shigaraki stepped up. He personally battled the monstrous Gigantomachia for a month and a half straight, and conquered other villain organizations to create the Paranormal Liberation Front. Thousands of new soldiers for his personal army.
All to impress All for One's personal quack. Dr. Ujiko, who spent months upgrading Shigaraki's body to make it more like his sensei's. It might have been constant agony, but Shiggy went from Chud to Chad.
Ujiko's experimentation vastly increased Shigaraki's strength, speed, and durability, enough to match and surpass even All Might's absurd power.
Sharing All Might's power between them, Deku and Bakugo were able to punch an island-sized hole in a cloud that reached 24 miles into the sky. We've calculated that before to be nearly 80 million megatons of TNT, almost as much as the meteor that wiped out the dinosaurs.
And Shigaraki can now move fast enough that his body produces hypersonic shockwaves and can even catch laser beams.
And he's tough enough to survive Star and Stripes' Intercontinental Ballistic Cruise Punch! Now the new name for my penis. Move over, gigantic Omega Storm. Anyway, it also made a blast so big it showed up against the curvature of the Earth.
Though he might seem invincible, when Shigaraki's body is pushed hard enough, he will evolve into a state of uncontrollable power.
So Decay became? Oh shit, more hands!
Shigaraki can spontaneously generate flesh into existence, seemingly oceans of it in an instant, whenever he wants. He can even use it as a type of armor to defend himself in close combat.
But that's nothing compared to Ujiko's greatest gift. Shigaraki wanted to be the new All for One, so what better way than the old man's quirk?
All for One's quirk, All for One, allows its user to steal and store quirks with just a touch.
And All for One has hundreds of them stored up, collected over the years.
Each quirk is connected to a memory of its user's essence in the form of a spirit, a vestige.
Kinda like a piece of their soul. They exist in this kinda psychic world in Shigaraki's body, and can even act as a spiritual defense should it be invaded.
And with those vestiges came quirks like super fast healing, air blasts, radio waves, flight, telekinesis, teleportation of others, and the ability to track foes.
He can even combine multiple quirks together, like in this big-ass electric Kamehameha.
However, any vestige stolen or destroyed will also remove that quirk from Shigaraki's repertoire. They're also sentient, and some can even fight for control.
Which is when the second shoe finally dropped. Because Shigaraki also got All for One's vestige, that means All for One was now in possession of a shiny new body that he'd spent the last 15 years molding for him to take over.
Shigaraki's entire existence was planned from the beginning. Why? Because All Might's previous mentor was Nana Shimura, Tenko's grandmother.
Oh, that to mess with All Might. That is some next level hating right there.
He manipulated Shigaraki's entire life, all for one purpose: to create a soul so corrupted it would grind away at All Might's perfect world, allowing All for One to take full control.
But All for One's possession wasn't complete, and Shiggy managed to fight his way back to the top, literally decaying his way through vestiges in the process, all to fight his rival Deku one last time.
Despite Izuku's best efforts to save him, Shigaraki was too far gone. His spirit decayed by years of venomous hatred.
And the new symbol of hope defeated the new symbol of fear, burying All for One's grudge for good.
All that Shigaraki asked was to be remembered as the heartless destroyer he was raised to be, and not the broken, angry, crying little boy he really was deep inside.
For just that one moment, though, Shiggy got in Deku the only thing he'd been denied his whole life, the one thing his lifelong nihilistic tantrum was really all about. He got a hero who tried to save him.
Todos a ver en inicio no entendieron, pero cuando escucharon pelea a muerte, eso los sorprendió, pero cuando vieron a Shigaraki y su historia, bueno, a algunos le dio lástima, y a otro no. La liga se sorprendieron a sabe el pasado de su jefe, pero cuando vieron lo que es capaz Shigaraki con su don, se sorprendieron mucho, pero más los villano, y los antihéroe y deidades dulce. No, que alguien ayude a ese perrito barra no que se muere, pero no pudo terminar ya que recibió un golpe de parte de un Shigaraki enojado ya que no quería que insultara a su perrito Toga. Vaya jefe, sí que eres muy frío, jeje. Esta lo decía con una sonrisa de oreja a oreja que hizo que el mismo Shigaraki se estremeciera, y no fue el único Spine. Ahora tiene sentido, esa batalla a muerte no solo revela el pasado de uno sino que también su futuro. Lo decía, viendo a un Shigaraki sonriendo a un Deku, mientras tanto con Dark vio la pantalla con solo un ojo, y lo volvió a cerrar y solo dijo esto Darkmente. Qué final de mierda, lo decía mentalmente. A ver eso, MR Compres. Vaya jefe, también peleaste con la heroína número 1 y la mataste. Bueno, eso era de esperarse. Lo decía sin su máscara y bebiendo té mientras tanto de adnote. Si es poderoso, pero que tan fuerte es para aguantar tanto. Lo decía viendo todas las escenas, calculado cada una de Loadsdan, pero uge. Una pregunta, señor Dark, ¿qué habilidad tiene ese villano llamado Tomura Shigaraki? El vídeo le dirá toda la información, así que a dormir. Cae a piso haciendo un terremoto nivel 4, pero no pasó nada, ya que gracias a la barrera que puse aguantará eso. Todos me vieron con cara de palo y otro con ¿este tipo es payaso o qué? Pero cuando vieron las habilidades de Shigaraki, bueno, algunos se asustaron, otros se interesaron por esa habilidad. En otra sala muy alejará está una maldición que ya saben quién es viendo con sorpresa que ese tal Shigaraki también puede matar a sus víctimas con solo tocarla, pero con una sonrisa siniestra vio a lo lejos ha mencionado y solo se acomodó más a ver qué pasará. Así todos vieron la pantalla que cambió y ahora se muestra esto adentro de la pantalla.
Ever since Cain slew his brother Abel and wetted his fields with his blood, man's greatest fear has been his fellow man.
But what if this fear took on a life of its own?
What if all that negative emotion humans felt for one another spilled from their bodies and congealed, forming, over time, a living being fueled by malice, which believes in nothing but the law of the jungle?
Well, then you'd have the special grade curse with the patch face, Mahito. Oh, I've had people tell me I've become a human disaster curse when I've had too many mojitos.
Mahito is one of the deadliest beings to ever afflict mankind. He's no mere mortal, though, but a cursed spirit. Innumerable spirits exist, weaker or stronger depending on the amount of anxieties, jealousies, hatreds, and fears humans feel about them.
Like the fear of locusts, kinda weak. Or the fear of smallpox, getting stronger. Or the fear of fire. Oh, goodbye, Tokyo.
So it follows that mankind's fear of itself would be extremely powerful. Those negative emotions manifest as Mahito, a being composed of cursed energy.
It's basically like evil ki. Cursed energy can be used to make spirits way stronger, faster, and tougher than any normal human. And it's invisible, making curses like Mahito impossible for the untrained eye to see. Only a life or death situation can galvanize a normal person to see a cursed spirit.
That also makes cursed spirits virtually immune to physical damage. They may be physically present in space, but can only be harmed by attacks that embody spirit matter like cursed energy.
Which makes curses insanely hard to get rid of, like ghosts, cockroaches, or my ex. That's why you need a jujutsu sorcerer to come in and kaizen the shit out of them. They call it exorcism, but I like the way I said it better.
Curses and sorcerers have battled each other for millennia, waging an endless war over the fate of humanity. Almost exclusively in Japan, though, for some reason.
But Mahito was special. You see, most curses are basically dumb animals. But Mahito has so much cursed energy that it gave him sentience.
So he was recruited by Kenjaku alongside other special grade disaster curses to wreak havoc upon the world. In fact, they made Mahito their leader.
And even more frightening than intelligence and bloodlust, Mahito possessed philosophy.
Perhaps informed by the tragic meaninglessness of interhuman conflict, Mahito is an existential nihilist, believing in nothing but his own will to power. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and Mahito is the wolf.
Which also makes him kind of a goofball. If nothing matters, why not have fun with the slaughter? Really get your steps in. He loves to dig around and toy with your emotions like a cartoon character before slitting your throat.
An appropriate analogy considering his curse technique, idol transfiguration.
Using his cursed energy, Mahito can control anyone's soul with just a touch, including his own. In fact, he's so good at manipulating his own soul that you can't even kill the bastard without directly targeting it.
In Jujutsu Kaisen, the soul and the body share an immutable connection. Whatever happens to the former affects the latter.
This lets Mahito squash, stretch, and shape-shift his body into literally anything he wants, like Play-Doh. He can turn his limbs into blades or clubs, grow wings like a bird or fins like a fish, reform his body around injuries, or even create clones.
Curse users are naturally unharmed by their own ability. Should he touch a human, though, his alterations to their body are instantly fatal.
And since he's attacking your soul, those physical wounds are gonna be impossible to heal.
Even if his alteration isn't directly fatal, the human body won't last more than a few moments in a transfigured state.
All that with one touch! God, I thought herpes was bad.
His powers mean Mahito treats humans as effectively disposable dolls that he can gleefully experiment on. The more casualties, the better, especially if he gets to break your spirit first and watch you suffer.
Even more twisted is when he combines two transfigured humans together for soul multiplicity, essentially a giant torrent of body horror flesh that he repels at an opponent. Ugh.
Mahito is unbelievably creative with his application of idol transfiguration, and despite being a newborn curse, consistently keeps experienced sorcerers on the back foot.
It helps that he's a quick study who's picked up a number of different curse techniques, like the Black Flash.
By applying cursed energy within 1 microsecond of an impact with an enemy, space itself will distort, exponentially amplifying its force by a factor of 2.5.
Not only does this hurt like a mother, it restores your curse technique and gets you fully in the zone.
And would require reflexes moving nearly 1,000 times the speed of sound. It's no surprise then that Mahito also unlocked the pinnacle of sorcerer techniques, the Domain Expansion.
Oh shit! More hands! A domain is like a barrier of cursed energy, but if you're caught inside, Mahito can use idol transfiguration instantly without even needing to touch you.
It's called the self-embodiment of perfection, the ultimate expression of Mahito's absolute control over his victim's body and soul. The only time it ever failed was against the student sorcerer and Mahito's archenemy, Yuji Itadori.
Because not only was Yuji a barf-inducing goody little two-shoes who believed in the inalienable rights of all living things, blah, 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 he also had a curse inside of him.
The king of curses, Sukuna.
Which meant Mahito's ability affected both souls in Yuji's body. Sukuna didn't like that. No surprise, and kicked Mahito's ass, forcing Patchface to fight with a handicap whenever facing his pink-haired menace.
Yuji's belief in the value of human life flew directly in the face of the world that Mahito knew to be cruel and meaningless. So he made it his mission to crush Yuji's spirit before killing him, murdering his friends, defiling their corpses, and brutally battering him before going in for the kill.
And he's got the strength to do it. Mahito's one of the most powerful curses in the world, and his growth is exponential.
Fellow disaster curse Jogo was able to summon a massive meteor capable of reducing the city of Shibuya to ash.
That'd take an energy of over 800 kilotons of TNT.
And Mahito can take as good as he can give, especially when, in the throes of struggle against Yuji, he evolved, unlocking a vastly more powerful form, the instant body of distorted killing.
Complete with armored exoskeleton and arm blades, this was a taste of the almighty curse Mahito was growing into, a true blight on all mankind.
It wouldn't last. In a bitter battle of resolve, Yuji won out. In a dog-eat-dog world, there was now a bigger wolf.
So he tucked tail and ran away like a bitch. And what do you know? Life suddenly became a whole lot more meaningful the second it looked like it was about to end.
All that gleeful nihilism, just a bitter hypocrisy in the end.
For him, maybe, but Mahito found a convert in his archenemy. After a battle that wiped out thousands of innocent people, Yuji's youthful spirit was gone. The only thing left that mattered was exorcising this curse.
In a way, that was Mahito's final victory, the destruction of another human being's soul. He may not have been around to see it, but the curse Mahito inflicted on the world would bring it to its knees.
Fuera de la pantalla todos a ver la historia de Mahito, se enojaron algunos mientras que el mencionado se sorprendió que la batalla a muerte será de ese tal Shigaraki y eso solo hizo que sonrieran de manera siniestra, pero cuando vieron y escucharon su habilidad se paralizó Deku. ¿Es una broma o este lo decía muy asustado Dark?
No.
Este lo decía con simpleza Gus de Berserk. Una habilidad que no solo es muy útil en las batallas sino también peligrosa. Este lo decía serio. A ver las escenas de Mahito Alastor. Qué interesante habilidad. Este lo decía con su típica sonrisa y ver de reojo a Mahito que también lo mira Itadori. Maldit, Pero no terminó a ver que Mahito está muy mal herido y Itadori lo persigue como si fuera una simple presa. Eso lo sorprendió y no fue el único. Nota de autor. Los que traje de Jujutsu Kaisen fue de la temporada 1, o sea, cuando le partió su madre a Mahito. Fin de la nota. En alma de Itadori vemos a Sukuna con una enorme sonrisa. A ver a Itadori en ese estado. Sukuna mente. Vaya mocoso, así que también vas a evolucionar en el futuro. Qué interesante. Fuera de alma de Itadori, Zoro de One Piece. Una habilidad que puede dañar no solo físicamente sino también espiritual. Lo decía serio. A ver la escena donde Mahito usaba su habilidad. Pero todos vieron que la pantalla cambia y ahora se muestra esto adentro de la pantalla.
Alright, the combatants are set, and we've run the data through all possibilities.
It's time for a death battle!
I'd heard of a powerful villain stalking these parts. My organization is going to tear this putrid world down around us. We could use a freak of your talents.
Little old me. Do I want to be king of the social rejects? How about I bring him your head instead?
Fine by me. Let's call this your audition. Sick of him? Game over.
Did you actually just say that? God, how lame!
Audition over.
Did I get the part?
Decay! What a rush! That all you got?
Domain expansion. I can read your soul. You're just a scared little boy whose daddy was mean and wants to make it everyone else's problem. Grow up.
Hands off my masterpiece. I felt your soul too. You only hate humanity because you were born that way. Totally random. I hate them for a reason. You grow up!
What did I say, Wiz? Like a bitch.
With their complex power sets, this match was a puzzle to figure out, which is why we're breaking it down to 3 categories: physical stats, survivability, and their powers.
But first, let's address one thing. Could Shigaraki even see Mahito? He's an invisible curse after all.
Cursed energy and quirks are notably different, and Shigaraki wouldn't be able to see curses normally. However, even regular humans can spontaneously develop the ability to see curses in life and death scenarios. And with the Search quirk, Shigaraki would have had no problem tracking it.
So seeing Mahito wouldn't have been an issue. With that out of the way, we can jump into their stats.
This was no contest. Despite the disaster curses being able to destroy entire cities with their cursed energy, Shigaraki's scaling to Deku and Bakugo meant he was calculably millions of times stronger.
He was faster too, considering he could react to light beams, while Mahito's Black Flash capped out at nearly 1,000 times the speed of sound. Nothing to scoff at, but Shiggy was thousands of times faster. Shigaraki takes stats.
But survivability was a little trickier to figure out.
Yep, in terms of raw durability, Shigaraki was a lot tougher, and his ability to generate new flesh meant that he could heal any wounds he might receive super easy.
However, Mahito is a curse, and is immune to the kind of overwhelming physical damage Shigaraki could dish out. Not only that, Mahito's regenerative ability via idle transfiguration meant that he'd come back from anything short of spiritual damage.
Considering Mahito's unique curse body, he should actually get the edge in survivability.
Which presents a crucial question. Could Shigaraki even kill a curse like Mahito in the first place?
Or would Mahito's unkillability give him the time he needed to eventually put Shiggy down with idle transfiguration?
It all comes down to their powers.
Shigaraki had a lot more variety with all of the crazy quirks All For One had collected over all the years, but none that we know of could properly kill a curse. That didn't mean idle transfiguration was a surefire bet either though.
Of all things, Shigaraki's vestiges served as a spiritual shield from the effects of idle transfiguration. The fact that Mahito could not avoid targeting Sukuna while attacking Yuji meant that he couldn't target specific souls inside a person.
And Shiggy has hundreds of soul-like entities inside of him. Sure, each one down means he loses a quirk, but that's more than enough time to land a single hit with Decay, especially considering how much faster Shiggy is.
And Mahito has no way to defend against Shigaraki's primary quirk. Decay has affected spiritual beings in the past. Again, vestiges. In fact, he was able to damage Deku's vestige and have that damage transferred to the Deku in the real world.
Mahito may be made of spirit energy, but he still has a physical form. In fact, sorcerers that couldn't naturally target the soul were able to fight him on even footing. No reason to think Shiggy wouldn't decay him like everyone else.
Giving Shigaraki the third and final edge. It was a unique duel to the death, but Shigaraki's overwhelming might, unstoppable powers, and deadly decay spelled the end for the disaster curse.
Nothing else to say. You really gotta hand it to Shigaraki.
The winner is Tomura Shigaraki.
Fuera de la pantalla todos estaban atentos a lo que iba a pasar y se sorprendieron y asustaron que algo estaba matando a las personas, pero los de Jujutsu Kaisen supieron quién era, pero a punto que este ser tocará a un adolescente con cabello blanco, este mismo se proteger usando una de sus habilidades, y este mismo usarla una de sus habilidades. Para verlo vemos a un Mahito sorprendido, que ese tan Shigaraki lo vio si usa energía maldita, pero igual sonríe confiando que va a ganar esta batalla, y vieron con sorpresa que este adolescente presionó un botón y salieran criatura, que comenzó a atacar a Mahito, que lo esquivaba con tanta facilidad, para luego toca a los no muy úsalo como armar para Shigaraki, que este mismo se cubrió. Eso sorprendió mucho a los presentes. David. Guau jefe, eso sí que es una pelear, lo decía, viendo la pelea de esos dos, mientras que los hechiceros se sorprendieron que daño a una maldición grado especial, usando su don particular y o lo que sea Megumi. Sí es fuerte, pero, dojo. También estratégico, lo decía asombrado por esa pelea Guice. Así es, dale una golpizas a ese tipo de las cicatrices barra, no sea idiota y no te mueras, lo decía con su doble personalidad. Eso hizo que Mahito tuviera un tic en el ojo, pero igual no dijo nada y solo vio la batalla. Rimuru. Esa pelea no está nada mal, Pero no terminó porque tanto él como los demás tuvieron cara de palo a ver que Mahito iba a besar a Tomura, pero este mismo lo golpea, haciendo que este caiga a el tren, pero este lo persigue para luego atacarlo, pero Mahito, usando sus energía maldita, usa clone de sí mismos para atacar a Shigaraki, pero este recibe mucho daño por todo lado. Eso preocupó a la liga de villano a ver a su jefe, pero vieron con sorpresa que este se enojó y tocó a un clon, desintegrando a uno, pero vieron con asco que Mahito lamió la sangre de Shigaraki y este solo se burla, pero se sorprendieron que los dos ahora esté luchando en un tren en movimiento y vieron con sorpresa que Mahito invocó muchas manos para atacar a Tomura por la espalda, pero este mismo se defiende valide de XD. Quiero pele, pero no terminó a ser noqueado por sus compañeros, ya que de verdad eso dos sí daba mucho miedo solo para su universo Mahito mente. Maldito maldición, ¿acaso este no se cansa? Pero no terminó a ver con sorpresa, pero también con una sonrisa que evolucionó. Eso dejó el shock a uno que se transformó los de mundo de los isekai, o sea los reyes demonios razas, y un gran número que me da mucha pereza. Menciona XD, detéctalo el poder de eso dos, y se aterraron que tenga tanta negatividad. Mahito mente ahora sí está muerto. Pero vio con la mandíbula abierta a ver que Shigaraki también se transformó escorpión de Mortal Kombat. Los dos sí son uno bueno rivales, lo decía asombrado a ver las habilidades de eso, como también la pelea Sub-Zero. Aunque los dos tenga habilidades muy peligrosas, uno que es desintegra toco lo que toca, el otro tiene una habilidad que me recuerda mucho a alguien Beldora. Ya más y más quiero ver más, este lo decía con una sonrisa y una energía increíble. Eso hizo que los de su mundo sintiera vergüenza. Veladora así es, sigue, pero no terminó a ser noqueado por su hermana. Eso hizo que los demás tuviera una gota de sudor, pero no dieron nada y solo la pantalla, pero algunos vieron con sorpresa que Mahito abre su boca, que tenía manos en su boca. Los de Jujutsu Kaisen supieron que era, pero quedaron todos atónitos a ver quién, y eso detuvo a Shigaraki Tomura ver con una sonrisa burlona a Mahito, que está sentado, y este mismo está más que furioso, pero igual sonríe, ya que los dos tiene también casi la misma personalidad como habilidad, así que los dos vieron la pantalla con sorpresa que Mahito se estaban riendo como loco, pero no pasó nada, solo vio a un cara de papa, que digo a Fon, que lo ver con aburrimiento y solo le tira un ataque. Este mismo se cubre, pero de nada le sirvió ya que destruyó su dominio. Eso sorprendió mucho a todos. Mahito a ver que su expansión de jamás en su vida pudo ver, y no fue el único. Tomura tocó la expansión de dominio con sus dedos, que esta misma se desintegró. Mahito corrió como loco, pero nada, ni eso funcionó, ya que Tomura lo agarra para luego desintegra su cabeza, y luego se ve en la pantalla que ganó Tomura. Todo era un silencio hasta que sí. Un montón de grito de emoción se escuchó por toda la sala de cine Dark. Hijo de, casi me dejas, soldó Mahito. Estaba con cara de trauma a ver eso, pero a punto que se todos celebrar o destruya mi sala de cine. Aplaudo para que todo se vaya. Yo veo mi trono y no lo pienso no veces y me acuesto. Fin de capítulo. Dígame qué les pareció.